Hey everybody, Bill Heffelfinger here with EXL. I'm EXL Digital CTO and VP of Cloud Engineering, and Encore and I are going to talk about the speed to value with AIOS, operationalize AI and cloud at scale. Before we do that, Encore, you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Bill. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at EXL. What that really means is our team stitch together the data, analytics, AI, and cloud capabilities to create business solutions for clients that create impact.
The AIOS, we're calling it, the AI operating system. If I'm a client or a prospect trying to work with EXL, what are some of the things I should think about, like maturity, and where am I on the scale of maturity? Do you have any thoughts on what that looks like? And then, follow on to that would be, okay, I think I understand this. I'd love to get engaged. What can I do to tap into EXL's mindshare to really figure this out with me?
So I think first, the concept of the AIOS, it really originated, I don't know if you remember there were the flip phones. And there were a few of the flip phones which tried to stick a sort of, smart screen on them and create a smartphone. And that didn't work. And what we've realized while working with our clients is just adding digital to the current operation or the current way of doing things really did not create improvement or speed, as we call it. And we've realized that clients need to change their operating system. And when we say change their operating system, what does that even mean? What operating system does an organization run on? I think today's organizations run on a very legacy operating system. If you look at a process in an organization, it's like a pinball. Data moves from from a customer, maybe in New York, to a data center in Raleigh, North Carolina, to operations 4 oceans away, to an expert maybe sitting somewhere on the West Coast. And it moves in this way because that's where the data decision makers or the operations reside. But that doesn't need to be there. If you have clean data, you can actually make it flow through a system. And that's where we originated this concept of the AI operating system, where it's really made up of 4 things. First, when you think about AI, it's got to be as close to the real world as possible to translate those real world signals into clean data. Because if in a customer interaction, you're getting incomplete data, you're getting data that is dirty, so to say, no amount of speed downstream is going to allow you to, or no amount of analytics downstream is going to allow you to really decision this quickly. So the first part is upstream AI. The second part of it is it's like water flowing down. It charts its own path. Once you've got clean data, you can now create a data flow that's completely different. You can actually reimagine it. It doesn't have to move across locations because that's where your experts were or that's where your data center was. So you've got to orchestrate and reimagine this new process. I think that's the second part. The third part of the iOS is really about the cloud. You've got to use the cloud for scale, but not to migrate applications or migrate servers or migrate data. You've got to use it as a true operational ecosystem. And the last part, you touched on it, Bill, is change management. In this whole thing, human beings are never going to be extinct. You have to elevate the role of a human being, though, from manual work to real decision making. So I think that's how we see the AI operating system. And when we think about maturity or where we are on the maturity curve, I think I touched on it. We believe the real way to figure out maturity is not, oh, how manual is my data ingestion, or, oh, am I on the cloud or not? Those are weaker indicators of whether you need the AI operating system or not. The real way to look at whether you need it or not and where you are is in terms of elapsed time. If the elapsed time for what it takes you to fulfill a customer's need is double of what it takes a competitor, you need digital and you need the AIOS. On the other hand, if you're the fastest in the market, maybe try to look at another problem. That's how we would think of the AIOS and maturity around that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's a great answer. I remember working early days with you on that. I just like light bulb went off, AI operating system and how it all ties together. So Thanks for doing that. So we're coming down to the end here. Any parting words before I pop up, how to get in touch with us if you're interested? Splash screen on our webpage. I'm going to go ahead and do that while you're talking, if that's okay.
Sure. I'm actually going to have a couple of questions for you. I think it's always fun to make a couple of Nostradamus type predictions. So what do you see changing in the market that's sort of non-obvious, right? So I have a couple of thoughts. One I already touched on. I think lapse time is going to be the way business cases are made in future. But the other one I think is process redesign by code. When you think of the cloud, the cloud was infrastructure as code, and it was a really big thing. Oh, I can spin up servers, and I don't need to buy them, and I don't need to go through the whole procurement process. I think when we think about changing and redesigning an enterprise in future, we're actually going to be doing it on these digital orchestration engines. So data is stored in a warehouse, and going forward, process logic is going to be stored on these orchestration engines. And together, the data in the warehouse and the process logic in an orchestration engine, they are going to be the way you redesign an organization. And I think you are good, just as you have data architects, you're going to have process redesign architects. Just as you have analytics, you're going to have logic designers who redesign an operation by code. I would see these two as big macro trends across all industries, really.
I like that. That harkens back to my early days when I was a developer. I always thought the best developers were those that understood the business and could write business logic as part of the solution that they were engineering. I think you're just kind of moving that into a modern context. I think about, you asked me what maybe some of the trends are I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I think absolutely this move towards serverless. Serverless is a buzzword, but it's legitimate. It's it used to be that you had to worry about the underlying infrastructure a whole lot more than you do today in cloud. Cloud enables that. You don't have to buy a machine. You don't have to do this. It's I see trends and similarities through these technology changes. Object-oriented design and development, OODD. So if you break everything apart into logical components and snap them together, to me, that's what serverless technology allows you to do. You can have business logic, you can have server functions, not the entire server. You can have storage functions, not the entire storage array. And when you put these things together in an intelligent way, you really build compelling, scalable, elastic, global reach types of systems that allow you to grow with your business without re-architecting every time you turn around. That's one trend I see, serverless adoption.
A lot of people ask about, when do I know if I need digital, or when do I know if I need technology? And typically it's about, do you need to reduce 10% cost? Or, do you need to improve your customer experience? I mean, those are ways, but it's really hard because you always want to keep improving your customer experience, right? And you always want to do something at lower cost. I think more and more, we're going to see a new metric define itself, and I call it elapsed time. And really, elapsed time is going to be the difference, for example, between when a customer filed an application for insurance when they got onboarded, the elapsed time. It's going to be when I filed a claim versus when it got adjudicated, when I wanted to introduce a new product versus when it actually got introduced. And I think that time, if reducing that time by half creates competitive advantage, then you need digital. On the other hand, if you sort of reduce that time and really it wouldn't make any difference, then you don't need digital over there. And I think that's more and more elapsed time is going to become a metric of digital need. And that's really a substitute for thinking about speed. Mm-hmm. And once you reduce elapsed time, it's obvious you're going to reduce costs because you're going to automate. You're going to improve outcomes because you're going to be faster than market. You're going to improve customer experience because who says, I like things that are slow? But I think elapsed time is going to be pretty critical as we go forward in defining whether you need digital or not.
So we're coming down to the end here. Any parting words before I pop up, how to get in touch with us if you're interested? Splash screen on our webpage. I'm going to go ahead and do that while you're talking, if that's okay.
Sure. I'm actually going to have a couple of questions for you. I think it's always fun to make a couple of Nostradamus type predictions. What do you see changing in the market that's sort of non-obvious, right? So I have a couple of thoughts. One I already touched on. I think lapse time is going to be the way business cases are made in future. But the other one, I think, is process redesign by code. When you think of the cloud, the cloud was infrastructure as code, and it was a really big thing. Oh, I can spin up servers, and I don't need to buy them, and I don't need to go through the whole procurement process. I think when we think about changing and redesigning an enterprise in future, we're actually going to be doing it on these digital orchestration engines. So data is stored in a warehouse, and going forward, process logic is going to be stored on these orchestration engines. And together, the data in the warehouse and the process logic in an orchestration engine, they are going to be the way you redesign an organization. And I think you are good, just as you have data architects, you're going to have process redesign architects. Just as you have analytics, you're going to have logic designers who redesign an operation by code. I would see these two as big macro trends across all industries, really.
I like that. That harkens back to my early days when I was a developer. I always thought the best developers were those that understood the business and could write business logic as part of the solution that they were engineering. I think you're just kind of moving that into a modern context. I think about, you asked me what maybe some of the trends are I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I think absolutely this move towards serverless. Serverless is a buzzword, but it's legitimate. It's it used to be that you had to worry about the underlying infrastructure a whole lot more than you do today in cloud. Cloud enables that. You don't have to buy a machine. You don't have to do this. It's I see trends and similarities through these technology changes. Object-oriented design and development, OODD. So if you break everything apart into logical components and snap them together, to me, that's what serverless technology allows you to do. You can have business logic, you can have server functions, not the entire server. You can have storage functions, not the entire storage array. And when you put these things together in an intelligent way, you really build compelling, scalable, elastic, global reach types of systems that allow you to grow with your business without re-architecting every time you turn around. That's one trend I see, serverless adoption. I really do think tying in AI at the edge will be something that, as compute platforms and these little devices we carry around become more and more capable, higher performance, lower drain on battery. IoT, Internet of Things, has been around for quite some time, and we do it without even thinking of it. 9 times out of 10, we've got these things monitoring and telling us things that are going on. If you take that from a pure business context and think about, you're in your car and all these cars now have cameras in them. You have a collision. Instead of just sending the SOS up and phoning home and telling somebody you need help in an automated way, imagine if that collision automatically, there's this recording of video as you're driving along, and now you've got a 360-degree view plus the top-down view that we all, some of these cars have. Imagine if you had that as a claims adjuster, as a insurance company, and you now can see what's happening at the edge. You need AI to do some analysis on that real time, and it automatically files a claim if you happen to be the one in the accident that sees a crumpled fender, right? So a lot of these things will start merging together and expanding out to the edge. I don't know if this will ever come to fruition, but I've been dreaming about tapping into all the potential cycles available in all of these devices. I look at my desk alone. Admittedly, I'm a little weird. I've got 7 computers sitting on my desk. I guarantee you I'm only using about 15 to maybe 50% of those computers at any point in time. This is the promise of cloud and virtualization and things like serverless. I can use those physical devices. Imagine if I did that in a peer-to-peer way with cloud-enabled functionality to tap into that. So the cloud allows you to push out to the edge, allows you to reach that. And you might actually find a day where you're doing something more than SETI. SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. You can loan your computer to a processing machine that's actually listening for signals, looking for signals and data. So anyway, that's a couple of them. Two legit, one kind of way out there. So, but that's what you get with me. Awesome. Just curious, why do you think digital is important for our clients? Do you have any thoughts on that, being the CDO?
Digital's been around for about I don't know, greater than 5+ years now. And it means a lot of different things to a lot of people. What we've gravitated towards is digital is really the pursuit of speed. And not speed in terms of, oh, rather than 3 months, get something done in a month, but it's speed of fulfillment. How quickly can you onboard a customer? If a customer files a claim, how quickly can you adjudicate the claim? Speed to market. If you want to introduce a new product, does it take you 12 months or does it take you 3 months? And I think digital is a way to create differentiation in terms of speed. And when you're able to do that, we call it the trifecta impact. Once you get speed, the trifecta impact of better business outcomes, better efficiency, and customer experience just flows through.
So how successful are digital projects? You have any thoughts on that?
Over 70% of projects under deliver, so not that successful. But we've gone a little deeper into why that happens. And the current market is very fragmented in terms of providers, as well as an organization itself. When you think of a digital solution, a client doesn't want a band-aid, right? A client doesn't want, you've got a current operation and you automate a piece of it. It really doesn't make a difference to what the end customer gets. Clients are looking typically for what we'd call a 4-layered solution. They're looking for someone who reimagines the way an operation gets executed, so the orchestration. They're looking for an algorithm that enables better decisions, that enables real-time information to be converted into clean data. They're looking to use the cloud for speed, not just as a plain infrastructure to move data or applications to. And they're looking for operations, their people, to be elevated so that they're actually performing true judgment-oriented tasks. If you step back and think about that, there's no one player in the market today who can actually stitch these 4 together. So the big reason why digital underdelivers is because there's no one who brings these together. And it's not about a missing provider. If you think about client organizations, they're designed very functionally. Operations is separate from technology, is separate from the business. No one really has that end-to-end view, even within our client organization. So we think fragmentation in the market as well as in client organizations is really the key driver of under-delivering digital projects.
That's interesting. Do you have any stories you'd like to share? I know you always have awesome stories. You work with a lot of really cool industries and people. I'd love to hear a little story. If you've got one you want to share, it comes off the top of your head.
So actually, a couple of them. So we were working with this client where they had this operations partner who was managing insurance operations for them. And a large part of the operation was there were paper documents that would come in, and this partner needed to convert that paper and actually enter the data into legacy systems. And the client realized that was not efficient, but they could not get the partner to really build that integrated AI and operation solution. And when you think about it, it should be really easy. If someone's managing the operation, they just need to basically bring the AI solution and build something for the client. And the big reason there was it's really hard. It was really hard for that operations partner to move away from the siloed services and really build something together. And therefore, that's where we were able to help the client, because we really brought together our AI capability along with operations. But another example is we were working with this title insurance company. And they were very clear that they needed to increase the speed of adjudicating a title. They had 2 options. One was they could re-platform their entire technology. It would be about a couple of years. And it was very risky because they'd have to port this existing operation onto that new technology. Or the other was look for a partner who could really run the car and change the wheels while driving it. And that was someone who could run the operation, but understood the domain, understood how to reimagine the algorithm and put it together on the cloud. So I think those are a couple of stories where the existing partners were really unable to provide the value that was needed.
I think a lot about data. I'm an old data guy. I've been working with data for almost 30 years, and it's just kind of core to, in my mind. I've always said if you own the data, everything else goes peacefully. I've got my thoughts about, where data should be managed efficiently. I know that we've talked through this a little bit with our AIOS, AI operating system. concept and how it all applies. Do you have any thoughts on data before I kind of talk a little bit about structured data or unstructured data?
I'd actually love to hear your thoughts, Bill. One around data, and also I'm very curious. You've been in and around the cloud for several years. Do you see the difference between how clients look at the cloud today versus earlier? So when you think about data and the cloud and how clients look at the cloud?
Yeah, absolutely, Alcor. It's fascinating to me that I've been working with cloud technology since I first heard it whispered on a plane or uttered on a plane ride home from the West Coast US in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been an interesting journey. And, there's born in the cloud native types of companies, usually small and medium-sized business startups. The larger enterprises, I'm still having the same conversations I've had for years with the more conservative of those larger enterprises trying to get there. So the cloud discussion has remained fairly consistent. The thing that's changed a lot during the time I've been working this, and this ties back to data, is that nobody was really willing, I shouldn't say nobody, the conservative crowd was not really willing to put their crown jewel data collection in the cloud because it could be, hacked, it could be managed poorly and made, expose it to the outside world by accident or intentionally. So a lot of fear about the secure aspects of cloud in terms of data. Well, things have really changed a lot in the last, I'd say, 4 years. A lot of new services that are being tried and tested, new methodologies of, don't move the data around. Data's got gravity. I worked for a company for a long time. That was kind of our tagline. Data's got gravity. It really sits where it needs to sit, and you should be able to access it, not move it. All these things are coming to fruition. The curious thing is that for, I'd say, at least half of the time I've been working in cloud, there's been really incredible structured and unstructured data tools in the cloud, just waiting for the business to move there as the larger businesses become more comfortable with the idea of putting their data in the cloud. So I'm seeing that over the last 2 to 3 years truly become, the trend. It's I'd say more than a trend. It's becoming a reality where your unstructured data, your images, your videos, your documents, all the heavy, multi-meg, multi-gig files, you don't want to send them around the world. You don't have to. You can actually allow secure access to them where they sit, and then also deliver them using content delivery network types of technologies. Structured data has followed a similar path. There's some partners we work with in this space that, it used to be a couple terabyte database was a large database. Well, we're talking petabytes. You don't want to move that data either. You want to figure out how to access that. So the data is really fascinating to watch this whole journey and how the access patterns and the security around storing and managing data has changed to make it more accessible across the globe to do more with and drive more insights.
But how does that work? So if I have an algorithm, my algorithm needs to consume data, right? How do I actually provide a service to the client if I'm not moving the data into my environment? Because I love the concept of not moving data, but isn't that somewhat of a chicken and egg situation? If I don't have the data, then I can't execute the algorithm.
Yeah, that's causing some interesting thinking. Just thinking about that alone is, how do I do this? Well, it's been around for quite some time. I'm not going to name the photo sharing company by name, but there's a lot of utilities out there that you can use to share photos. And if I sent you a link to a photo in this cloud repository of all my photos, think about those photos as large objects. I get a little technical. These are binary large objects. They live as files. It's not name, address, serial number type of stuff that you might find in a structured database. So these objects live there, and if I upload them from the phone that I use to create them into a cloud repository and send you a link to that photo, and you open up that link in your browser and you go, hey, Bill, nice photo, and you actually put those words on there. That's metadata about the photo. So you've just now enriched the photo itself by adding metadata saying, hey, nice, or no, ugly. Now I've got some indicators as far as what that photo looks like. When you hit save on that comment, well, number one, you didn't download that image, you just viewed it on your browser, so it's really in memory and cache. The metadata that you created and saved to it is actually being stored in a metadata context with that photo. So if you think about AI and applying AI in a similar way, you can do the same thing. You can teach a artificial intelligence or machine learning to access these objects in place, analyze them, create metadata about them, and then write that back as a JSON blob or whatever format you want to that original file that lives right next to it. So these two things always go hand in hand, but it's not rocket science. We're doing it every day when you share, whatever little video clip that you share on some social media or anything that you post that's a large object and add data about it. I doubt very greatly you're downloading those objects and actually working with them and then re-uploading that. So it's been proven for years. It's just now hitting the mainstream in terms of enterprise data management.
Interesting. How do you think with the cloud and with some of these no-code, low-code type of applications, the boundary between what technology does, what business does, what operations does, it feels like it's merging. How are organizations coping with that? Because these functional silos have existed for a pretty long time.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And this is a human nature thing more than it is technology or business in general. Every time you change a paradigm, it should cause a change in how we're thinking about things. I'll use an example from my past. I implemented an accounts payable imaging system long time ago. This is before AI, so it would have been nice to have AI technologies back then. But imagine thousands of pieces of paper coming in every day that represent invoices. Literally tens of people manually taking that paper, distributing it around a bunch of inboxes, manually keying into an ERP system, everything that they felt relevant in that invoice, and then hitting send, and it goes off to the next person after it's in. Just simply adding a scanning mechanism and routing mechanism based on tags you might put on the data or on the invoices coming in, which was basically a divider sheet at the time. It routes it to a different direction, a different queue, a different processor to be handled. Well, fast forward, sad to say, 20 years, and here we are, we've got these really intelligent technologies that allow you to do not just the routing, but the gleaning of data from that. Both of those take a change in thinking about, what's the human's role in this? I hear a lot of people just worry about, oh my goodness, I'm going to be displaced by this, AI. No, it actually gives you a chance as a human to add true value and offload those tasks that are repetitious in nature, that are programmable to a machine to do. So it actually lets you add more value as a person, but that's a change. You have to actually get people, the right exposure to training, to understand what the change is, understand why the change is going on. So you hear me talk about change management all the time. I probably to a default, but it's my go-to place when I talk about, things evolving. And that's what technology does in our world. The business evolves because things evolve around it that cause you to want to go faster, go to market faster, process faster. Technology is a good pairing for that. If you do it right and you handle the evolution of the process along with the people, it seems to work out pretty well. Where I see it go off the rails is if you ignore that and just try to force your way through with a new method, a new technology. People will, just human nature, usually kind of just push that back and say, no, I'm not interested.
How should a larger organization think about experimentation with these new technologies? Is a typical approach wait a couple of years before adopting something? How do you sort of get comfortable with this at an enterprise level?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to risk tolerance and risk profile. If the new technology seems risky for the business, the core business at hand, and you truly understand it as a new technology and what it can do, you might want to wait a little bit until it meets your risk profile. I've seen very large, insurance companies, banks. I don't see a lot of this in healthcare necessarily, but I'm sure it's there. Have a group that goes off and really just kind of either bring somebody in to talk about this new technology. I had this happen back in 2009 when cloud first was a thing in my world. A lot of people just want to understand, what does it mean? I've got to be there. My board's telling me I've got to be there. Well, this new technology pops up. It's not a bad idea to have at least a small subset of the organization, both cross-functional, organization, both business and technology, come together and say, okay, is this good for us now? Should we wait? Should we, defer until it's really mature. And I think that's what we're actually seeing with AI. A lot of R&D projects, are coming into production now, and it's really fascinating.
I've always thought the adoption curve of any new technology is really governed by how big of a burning platform is it in the market. And what I mean by that is sometimes if the competitive threat is high, it's easier to move towards some of these newer technologies. And I look at our clients. We're working with this life insurer, and they felt that the insurtechs were getting too close, and their problem was they needed to reduce the time it took to onboard a new life insurance customer, and that got them to open up to new technologies, explore AI, rather than having underwriters pour through 150 pages of physician statements. They were ready to consider an AI actually extracting the variables they needed for their mortality models. And the underwriters just validated the data. So I think that's an interesting point. The adoption curve is actually going to be governed by competitive intensity.
Yeah, absolutely. Competitive advantage. If you think about the smaller companies, they can move in a more nimble way to adopt new technologies. They might not have critical mass or a smaller piece of the overall puzzle, but they could grow really quickly just if they land on a novel leverage point that lets them accelerate. We've seen this happen with CRM systems and ERP systems in the last 10 years. It's really pretty fascinating to watch some of these things happen where large incumbent says no, we're good, and then a little upstart really just runs right by them because they leveraged it. And it's competitive advantage for sure.
Cool. You wanted to, I think we've come to the end. You wanted to give everyone the contact information.
Yeah. So if you go to exlservice.com and you hover over our services and solutions and click on AIOS, you'll find this splash page for AIOS. There's a get in touch button here. Just click on that and somebody from the team will reach out to you. There's also some really good information on here that we talked about a good bit at a high level. There's also a very good white paper that goes into a bit more detail that you click on that and you can access that. So with that, Ankur, as always, I thoroughly enjoy our talks. Thank you, and that's a wrap.
Thanks, Bill. Take care.
Thanks, take care.